Alright, in this tutorial we're going to go over basic DJing in Ableton Live in their session view. Now as you can see, I have two tracks set up right now in Live, and you want to think of each track as a virtual deck or virtual turntable. So once you have that set up, you want to drag an audio clip onto the first deck, and let's take a listen to it. Once that's loaded and you can hear it, the next thing you want to do is you want to warp the track. And what warping does is that it beat maps or beat grids the track out and allows you to play it at whatever the master global tempo is. As you can see right here, it's set at 110. So once a clip is warped properly, it'll play at whatever the global tempo is set at. Now the quickest way to warp the track is you want to turn on warp, and then you want to find the very first downbeat of the track. In this case, it's at the very beginning of the song. From there, you want to right click, and then you want to click warp from here. And if I zoom out, I'm going to undo that and show you again. You'll see that the waveform will shift so that the downbeats move to where the corresponding bar numbers are, as you can see right there. Now that this is warped, if I change the master global tempo, so will the playback of this clip. So really fast, and I can go really slow with it. So let's put it back to 110. And let's go and do this for a second track on deck 2. So again, load the track. Let's take a listen. And let's zoom in a little bit, turn on the warp real quick, find the first downbeat and right click and warp from here, and you can see that the waveform shifted. Let's do that again, zoomed out so you can see that again. Right click, warp from here, and you can see how it shifted. And let's go adjust the master tempo again and hear this one play conform to the master tempo. Alright, so let's do this for 2 more tracks. Here's a third track, same process. Here it is unwarped. So let's zoom in, find the first downbeat, and right click and select warp from here. And let's take a listen to that. So now let's do this for a 4th track with the same process. So that's unwarped. Zoom in, find the first downbeat, turn on warp, right click, and warp from here. And let's listen to this. Now if you look at the clip inspector under the warp settings, you'll see that the native tempo of the clip is listed once it's been warped. So this one is around 95 BPM at its normal speed, and it's now playing it with the master tempo set at. So the next thing I want to show you is the re-trigger of the clip setting right here in the top left corner. Right now it's set to 1 bar, meaning that whenever I trigger a clip, it won't start playing until the next bar marker is reached. Now you can adjust that to be smaller up to 1/32 note, or you can go to none, where it's just basically freehand, and it'll just re-trigger as fast as I can click on it, as you can hear over here. If I were to switch it to, let's say, an 8th note, it'll only re-trigger as fast as every 8th note. So if I try to click faster, it won't start it until the next 8th note is hit. 16th note lets me go a little bit faster. And quarter note will be slower. This is about as fast as I can re-trigger on a quarter note. Now this is really intended to keep you from triggering clips off beat. So for this tutorial, we'll keep it at 1 bar since we're just mixing full songs. So now that we have everything warped, we can now start mixing these tracks. So I'm going to start with the first clip on deck 1, and I'm going to have the volume turned down on the fader for deck 2, so we only hear deck 1 playing. Now I just triggered a clip on deck 2. I'm going to slowly bring up the volume fader on that track, and you'll hear the songs mix. And I'll slowly fade out on deck 1. So there you have a basic blended mix, sort of like what you would do on 2 turntables. And now I'm going to slowly bring in the next clip on deck 1 and bring up that volume fader. And now I'll trigger the last clip on deck 2 and slowly bring up the fader there while bringing down the fader on deck 1. So in this example, we were mixing tracks using the volume input faders, but if you wanted a more traditional DJ feel, Ableton does have a crossfader function. As you can see, the A and B down here under each track corresponds to a different side of the crossfader. So I'm going to set deck 1 to A and deck 2 to B, and you see the crossfader here under the master fader. And if you take a listen as I move the fader, you'll hear deck 1 only, and then you'll hear a blend as the fader goes to the middle, and as I move it all the way to the right, you'll be left hearing only deck 2. So check this out. So there's a simple crossfade. Let's bring it back to deck 1. And back to deck 2. Now one thing I noticed that the clip levels are a lot different between clips, so you can adjust the volume of each clip using the volume fader within the clip inspector. If you look over here, let me turn this one up. Get a little bit closer. Actually, let me turn this one down a little bit, it's a little loud. Bring this one up just a little bit more. Now let's check out the songs on deck 1. This one's a little bit louder, so let me bring up the second clip to get closer to it in level. So that's pretty close. You can always fine tune it to get it even closer, but for now that should do the job. Now, as you can probably hear and see by looking at the master channel, this overall mix is clipping or going into the red. It's a little too hot. So you can turn this down overall, or what I like to do also is put a limiter onto the master track. And what this does is it prevents any audio from going past a certain point. And the point in this case is going past 0, because that's where it starts to clip. So you immediately hear a difference now as the audio is prevented from clipping. Now you still don't want to push too hard into the limiter. You want to keep your levels at a reasonable level, but just in case you lose track of your levels while you're in the mix, it's a good idea to put this limiter on the master track. Alright, so now that we got our levels set and we got our tracks warped, we can now start to play with some effects to enhance our mixing. One of my favorite plugins that I like to use is a free third-party plugin called the QB filter, and you can set it up to be a dual high-pass and low-pass filter. So I'll put one on this first track, and I'll switch the mode to dual low pass, high pass. Now set it to 0.5, which means that it'll be neutral, meaning no filtering is going on. And let's just take a listen to it as I move the fader. So it's a low pass filter when you move to the left, and then a high pass when you move to the right. I also like to put the filter resonance to about 0.3, and what that does is it gives you a little bit of a frequency boost where the filter is set, giving you a little more pronounced effect. So let's go ahead and duplicate this on the second track so we have a filter on both. Do a low pass, high pass, set it to 0.5, and we'll go to about 0.3 on the resonance. So just listen as I filter one out. Kind of a cool way to transition between two songs, as opposed to just using a crossfader or volume levels. Now I'm going to show you how to incorporate a send effect into the mix. As you can see, I have two effects buses on the right, and I'm going to drag the simple delay onto the first one over here. I'm going to link the left and right channel of the delay and set the timing to 4. I'm going to make it 100% wet, and we'll turn the feedback up a little bit so it gets some repeats on our delay. Now when I play the track on deck 1, if I turn up the level on send A, you'll hear the delay kick in. And turn the delay up a little bit more, or the send up even more, to give us a louder delay. And you can do the same thing for deck 2. Let me quickly just move this filter to a neutral position. And now I'm going to turn the send up on deck 1 to echo out to deck 2. And now I'm going to do a little combination of sending deck 2 to the delay and then filtering the track. So what you heard is now a filtered delay. So that's a basic introduction into using Ableton Live as a DJ interface. What's really powerful about Ableton in this capacity is that you can really have an unlimited amount of virtual decks. If you want to layer more and more sounds and songs together, you also have a multitude of VST and audio unit plugins that you can incorporate as effects. And in future tutorials, we'll go over incorporating MIDI controllers and virtual instruments to further enhance your DJ set.